likely that it must be very difficult to be successful in the wine industry if you, if you aren't already a multimillionaire, or if you don't already have a family property that already is doing really well. And that's probably quite true. So in the early 20th century, then imagine the plight of a Russian refugee fleeing revolution and fleeing everything, landing in Paris, and then a few years later arriving in the United States in 1919. And that's what the Lascombes family did. They were escaping various concerns, and their son, who was 6 at the time, called Alexis, was interested in learning about life. Now, he went to school and went to University in Pennsylvania, but left University of Pennsylvania because he didn't find it very interesting or full of learning, because he wasn't learning anything. So he left, and then the war came, and he had been interested in selling stuff, and he was an interesting character. And certainly his later professional career was fascinating, because he was at the very forefront of change through modernisation in the wine industry generally. So in the war, he was in the intelligence corps, and he'd had a sales job working for various wine merchants. And after the war, he went to his employer and said, "Look, I'm doing really well. I want to become a partner." And the partner refused because he wanted to give over half his business. So he set up his own business, Lascombes and Compagnie, and set to expanding at a rapid rate. So the 1950s come around, and it's probably the right time to have been a successful person with some cash in your pocket, because a lot of properties were going very cheaply. The first one he bought was Chateau La Prieure, which became very quickly Prieure Lascombes. And after that, he took out a share in Chateau Lascombes in 1952. The same year, he also bought parcels in Bonmar and Le Chambertin. It's just extraordinary that you were able to do that back then, just because you could. So his revolutionary bits, what were they about? They weren't really about the wine. It was about the approach to wine. He wanted to reclassify the 1855 classification, and he led the consortium to do that, but it was unsuccessful. As history tells us, it's only been changed once, and that was by the president in 1973. So before that, the year before that, this was made. 74. So 1973, of course, nice vintage. This will have to do your first birthday. So this stuff is amazing, or your fourth rather. The fact that it's got a really high fill level shows it's been cellared very well. The cork is probably about an inch thick. At this stage, his company was selling stuff into the States a lot, and it was probably the most successful wine import and export company from France. What he had done was to try and soften the image of the wine industry, and the way he'd done that very early in the mid-1950s was to set up a tasting room for the general public. It's the first time in history that any winery anywhere in the world had said, "Come into us, taste our wine, and then if you like it, you can buy some." Right? Before that, it had entirely been done through merchants, either on the auction, the Place in Bordeaux, or through typical traditional merchants for every other winery ever going. So imagine the change that his intervention made. Sales and marketing is something that clearly runs in the blood. I think one of the really interesting things about the Lascombes name is that his son, now 62, called Sacha, is also very famous in the wine industry, but not in Bordeaux. He sold Prieure Lascombes in 1999, and having not really an interest in the production of wine, he was interested in the sales and marketing end of it, decided that the thing to do was to create a brand and work. Sure, that's never going to work, is it? Because it's all about quality, isn't it? Well, tell that to him, because he, in the early 2000s, established a Provence winery called Whispering Angel. So that's how the lovely Lascombes story has come to a kind of a bit of a close. You can take over the world of wine, and you don't have to be born into it. You just have to be extremely ballsy and unbelievably talented at selling and getting money.